This is part 2 of the overview session. So if you guys didn't make it last time, it's not a big deal. It doesn't really tie directly into what we're going to go over today. Today, basically, we're going to be going along the toolbar and going over the remainder of the tools, or as far along as we can get with the remainder of the tools. There is a lot to this. And again, if you do find tools that are interesting to you that you'd like to expand on, know more about, we are having more sessions. So you can just ask if you haven't already. A lot of people went through and they checked the I want to know everything. If you're in the I want to know everything box, which is actually a good place to be, you can attend every single class, and we'll send you an invite when we set those classes up. And usually you can pull something out of it. And again, they're only a 2-hour session. You didn't lose a whole lot. And if you pick something up, then it saves you a little bit of time, then great. All right, so the first tool we're going to cover, I think the last thing we left off with was the text box, this guy right here. So the next one we're going to do is highlighter, okay? Now, highlighter, I use highlighter a lot. I use highlighter to highlight text and documents. I use highlighter to highlight maybe different symbols on drawings and things like that. Highlighter is a pretty versatile tool, and I do use it. I use it, but I don't use it exclusively as my highlighter. And then there's several tools that I use for highlighting. This is just one of them. And I'm going to kind of go over the features of this highlighter and why I like certain elements of it and why it infuriates me in others. Highlighter, again, you can use the little shortcut path, which is the hotkey H. So if I'm in my screen and I hit the H key, boom, you can see all of a sudden it just transitions right into a highlighter. And I can highlight whatever I want in here. Immediately I'm highlighting. This is one of those tools that stays on permanently. It stays on until you choose another tool. So as soon as I highlight something and I release, I'm clicking and releasing here, you can see it still stays highlighted. This is, sometimes people like the tools to be set up that way so that you don't have to keep going up and re-clicking a tool over and over again to use it. And you'll see that some tools are set up this way that it's always on, and other tools are not. You know, and we can talk about that a little bit more too. There's a way to make your tools stay on permanently. But for now, let's just stick with highlighter. So you can see I was freehanding some of those highlights there. I'm just going to lose this guy right here. Oh, delete this thing out of here right now. And delete tool. Okay, got a more area in here now. All right, so highlight, we have properties for highlight too. So if I come in here and I click my highlight tool, you can see I have different properties in here. And one of which is this highlight button. And we've discovered in previous classes that this does not work as a solid tool. It only works as a highlighter, even though it has a box here that you can uncheck. So I can highlight through here, and now it does work. It's always funny when these things happen and it works and then it doesn't work. But that is essentially unhighlighted. If I'm highlighting now, you can see through it. So yeah, always good when you're going in one direction and then something else happens. It does work. You can
Hey, Sean, how do you just do that? One's covering the lettering.
Right. This is this box right here. It says highlight. So if it's unchecked, it's going to do a solid line.
Okay.
All right. Which essentially makes highlighter like a lot of other tools. I think it's just highlight is default set for highlighting. So when you open it up, it's always in highlight mode. It does.
Makes a difference if you're printing a document.
Oh, absolutely.
Because then you can't see.
You won't be able to see behind it.
Right.
Exactly. Now, with some of these other tools, highlight included, you have this opacity, and we're going to go over this and again as we go forward. And I think we did a little bit last time with the text box. So you have an option. You could actually turn highlight off and change your opacity to something smaller. So if you see it, though, you can kind of see a difference here. When you change your opacity, it changes the pigment of your what you're highlighting. So that's not selected right now, but I can select this by selecting my select tool, selecting this, and then changing the opacity. And as you can see, if I pull this out of here and I take my highlight out of here, I can grab it, the different color between the two of them. Essentially, they're doing the same thing. They're allowing you to see through this, but it's just a different way of doing it. Okay. So just like a lot of other tools too, all these other properties are at play. You can change the line width. You just click on it and you can change this value. If you know what the value is, sometimes it's better just to start that way. And you can set these as defaults too. So I can change the color of this. If I don't want it to be that color, I can change it to this color here. Again, I can change this back to be 100% opacity and then make it highlighted. And I can make it as a default. So again, every one of these markup tools has its default down here. If that's the color that you always want to be using, then you just set it as default. And then the next time you come in here and you use this tool, it's drawing that color line and it's drawing it at that line width that you've chosen. This is freehand. You know, if you hold the shift button and then you click and drag, you can see it becomes very straight. If you hold the shift button and you drag straight up, it does that as well. So it makes it a lot easier to draw those straight lines if that's what you want to do.
How'd you know to use the shift?
Those are little tricks that you pick up just over use in YouTube videos and things like that. You know, they don't tell you that, you know, but these shift and control buttons, they change a tool's dynamic in a lot of these different ways. So sometimes once you figure it out, you just start using it and you find other applications. So we talked about, you know, using it to highlight text. So use my double click my center button. Now I'm back on the center here. And if I'm set up to highlight text, you'll notice with the cursor, it's shown as a highlight, but as soon as I get close to some text, it changes into a text prompt. Now, if I click at this point and I drag, it covers the text cleanly. So again, if I'm in here and I click and I drag, it does a nice clean job of highlighting text. If I want to do certain things. So, I mean, for a text tool, that can be a neat way to do things. Again, not my favorite way to do things, but it does make things a lot cleaner. Unfortunately, it doesn't work this way consistently with text, and I got another document down here I'm going to use to expand on that with. So this is a text document, but this is a different kind of text document, and you probably see these a lot with submittals. This actually is a submittal. And the text looks a little bit different. So if I grab my highlighter tool here and I come over, you can see it's not changing that to like a text prompt. It's keeping this highlighter. So I can come in here and I can use my shift button and I can click and drag, and hopefully it's going to work. So shift, drag, shift, drag. You know, if I'm aligning correctly, it's going to allow me to highlight the text well, but it's not giving me that text prompt because it's not recognizing these letters and numbers as actual text. This is a different format. Another thing that is a little infuriating about that text prompt, sometimes when you come into drawings and you get text in here with something you're trying to highlight, and you can see it does still come in here and change to a text prompt. But sometimes it's not right at the text. If I want to highlight something else, it's not allowing me to do that. It assumes that I want to highlight text, so it gives me the text prompt. So that can be a little difficult too. If you hold the shift button here, I'm sorry, control button? Yeah, sorry, control button. Control button will actually toggle from that text prompt back to the highlighter. So it makes it a little bit easier to get out of that if you don't want to use that. Another kind of small issue with this highlight changing the text prompt, specifically in drawings like this. Sometimes when you grab text in here and you try to highlight, it winds up highlighting everything. You see it just jumped and it started highlighting everything on the drawing, you know, just by dragging the cursor. And if you guys have experienced this, it's a little maddening. And just like I said, I tried to highlight one piece of text and everything on the drawing just got highlighted. So again, you know, sometimes that's not the greatest tool to use for highlighting text. And again, one good way to get out of that is if you hold the control button. So I'm in here, I want to highlight this tell data device, but I can't because it's in the text prompt. I hold control and now I can just do a little guy like that. Okay, that's really it for the highlight tool. Again, we're going to go over some other tools that we have for highlighting. This is a good tool for some of the stuff, but not fantastic for other things. So the next tool I have up is the pen. Pen and highlighter have a lot of similarities. You can use pen as a highlighter. You can change the line width. You can change opacity. In a sense, it's pretty much the exact same tool as highlighter. I can go back to my main page here. I mean, you can freehand stuff in here, and honestly, that's what the only thing I really use pen for is if I'm going to have a meeting and I'm trying to define something in a specific area. It's like I want you to look at this here. It's a box and it's shaped like this. You know, it's in this area. I can use the pen to kind of define what I'm talking about while we're reviewing something in a Google meeting or something like that. You know, but otherwise, I don't really use it as a tool. I mean, it can have some value. I think actually, if I trick back to my pointer here and I hover over, you can kind of see it actually has some way to recognize text. You can see the little prompt there. It knows that I wrote that there. So there are some things that are a little bit different about pen, but I just don't use them that way. I'm not going to use my mouse to write in script and then have it try to convert that to text. It's not something that's practical for me to do. But I mean, again, if you are having a meeting or something like that and you want to use that, you can actually use that. You absolutely use that feature. Just like the highlighter, if I click and hold shift and then click and drag, it will draw a straight line. Or if I have to select the tool, it will work better. There you go. There's your straight line. It will do the same thing in a vertical fashion.
That's shift, not control.
That's the shift. That's the shift button. I sometimes get the shift and control button confused, but it's quick to kind of change that once you figure out it ain't working. Like I said, those two tools change a lot of dynamics, or those two buttons, I should say, change a lot of dynamics with the different tools that you do use.
So if we mark something up like this, just to erase that, it's just that rewind button up.
The rewind button, yeah, because this is a markup, so you're just really getting rid of it, right? So if I click this, if I click out of this, right click and I'm out of the tool, I come down and chip my select button, I'm selecting that one line, right? So I can change the dynamic of that one line. I can make it longer, and I can rotate it. I could do some stuff with it, but it's one line from point to point, from end to end. So there's no way to erase the middle portion of it. I can shrink it, but I can't really erase it. The same thing with these irregular ones. If I click that line, that's the line. Let's see, this one must be another portion of the line. So I can drag this away, or I can rotate that, but I can't erase it. I could just delete it. So I can delete it, or I hit the back arrow. So I can change the thickness of that line. I can make it a highlight. I can't see red through red, but and really that's pen. There's not really a whole lot more to really talk about with pen. Sometimes they do this with the tools just to have an option for default. You know, you can set pen up the same as a highlighter and default it. You can say that I want this, pen. I want pen to be green. I want it to be a width of 4. I want it to be highlighted, and I'm going to set it as a default. And again, just like we did with the highlight tool, you know, it's going to do the highlight thing, you know. But the good thing is you could set up pen for green, and you could set up highlight for yellow and do the same thing. And you could have 2 different colors, and you could toggle between the 2. So that's pen. I do have a drawing here, one-line drawing. Most of the people in this room have had to deal with one lines in one way or the other. Sometimes they get complicated. Myself, I used to like to mark up my circuits differently. You know, if I had emergency circuits or if I had life safety circuits, I like to color in my lines. You know, whatever, so I know where they are, where they go. You get, you know, horizontal kind of things like this. It gets a little confusing which one's which. So it's nice to be able to highlight your one line. And, you know, you could use the pen in here, you know, and try to do this. And you could drag it down.
Should use the shift.
You can absolutely do that too. So you can come in here and hover the pen over and hold the shift and drag the line down to here. And then hold the shift again. Do this. It's just not as clean. I mean, it's working, but it gets a little clumpy because you click wrong, you whatever. So you get this, and that's just not doing it for me. So there is another tool. I'm saving it because it's further down on the list here, but I promise we will get to it before the end of the class. But that's pen again. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one. The next one is this Cloud Plus. And I'll bring Cloud Plus. I'll bring it up here, and we'll get back into the main page for Cloud Plus. So what Cloud Plus is basically a combination of the Cloud tool and the Callout tool. So instead of doing 2 actions, it allows you to do 1 action. So I click on that tool. I got a lot of different properties that will open up here. And we did the text box last time. So this has a text box and a call out and a cloud all in it. So if I'm going to select something, I can say I want to select maybe my name, maybe just make a box around my name, and then I drag over and click, and I can write I don't know, whatever you want to do there, you know. So that allows you to kind of do that whole thing all at once. Maybe you get a change in the drawing you want to highlight or something like that to note it off to yourself. I don't use this tool a whole hell of a lot, but I mean, if you're going to do it this way, that's the tool to use because you don't have to make several functions. And I've seen a lot of foremen do it. They'll draw a text box, then they'll draw a call out, and then they'll draw another text box. And if you're going to do that, you might as well use this. This is default. It's giving you a cloud here, but it doesn't mean that you have to use cloud. I mean, if you want to draw a box around something, you can just change the properties of it like we've done with other things. So again, I will select this tool and I'll come into properties. And instead of having cloud, I can just select a solid line. And then I can draw my thing. And now it's a call out box with a text box. You can do a lot with these properties. You can say that I want to have a solid fill. and maybe I want to highlight it, you can change the text box to have a border around it if you want, and that would be down here. This was the call out box right here, and this is the cloud. So you come down where it says call out, and then you can say fill color. Actually, I'm not going to do fill color on this. I'm just going to do a line width, and I'll change that from 0 to 75, and now you can see a box appears around that text box. Like we talked about with text box as well, you have text alignment inside here. So this isn't particularly centered in this text box here, but I can come down and I can say that I want it centered and I want it aligned in the middle. So now it's in the middle there. I can change it to make bold text. And if I wanted to, I could fill it as well by changing this one to something else. So again, once you figure out what you want, a good idea to do is to default it. You set it as a default, and then it always stays that way. You know, and I like consistency too. If I'm making notes on the drawing, you know, I'm gonna have a very consistent font and highlight. This is the one that I like to use, the blue and the yellow. It tends to pop a little bit, and you can see the text very easily. You know,
change the line.
This line here. Yeah. So that's part of the line width.
At the same time.
It does. It does.
So you can't separate.
I'm sorry, you can't separate it.
Okay.
Yep. You can make the whole thing long.
Gotcha.
So, like I said, I don't typically use this one. I do use this other one, call out a lot. I don't need the cloud to be on this. I just really need to be pointing at things. But again, a lot of these properties are exactly the same in all these tools. You get a lot of options here for how you want this line to be. Okay. We'll go right into cloud. Again, the cloud properties are gonna be the same as the properties that are in this tool anyway. So let's just look at cloud. And cloud I do use a lot if I'm gonna try to identify things. As built, I tell Foreman to do this all the time. Use a red cloud to highlight what your change is, and then use a yellow highlighting tool to highlight the actual change. It just makes it easier to see things. So if I had, I don't know, let's go to a drawing here. So if I had a circuitry change or whatever, I mean, I'll just say I want to change this device from a 2 to a 4, right? As builts go, I would say first thing to do is strike through that 2, so I know that it's not what you want. And then I would say put a text box in here, and then you can say that this is actually, change the properties of this. I'm going to make it no fill. I'm going to make no color on the border. I'm going to make it a red font. And looks like I'm going to have to change my font size because the font's at 28 right now. I'll make it like 6 or something. And then I'm just going to type in bold maybe the number 4. And it looks like that font's maybe off a little bit, so I'll change that font maybe go up to 9, something like that, and then I'll rotate that maybe and put this beside it. Okay, and then I'm just going to take a cloud like this and go around it. And the reason I do that is so that when you're looking at the drawing, you can see the cloud better. If you're just changing the text, you can't see it, and we should probably do the little highlight here too, and that one's set for that. So you can hold the control button and kind of that just helps them see what the hell you're doing, And that's all we want to do with as-builts. That's it. You know, it's as far as we want to go. We don't want to change different color clouds and different color highlights and stuff like that. That's all we want to do. So that's what I use cloud for right there, to kind of highlight or get your eye to go to where the change is. You got a hand up there, Kenny?
I was just wondering, how do you fill the whole thing instead of just highlighting?
How do I fill the whole cloud? Okay, so if I click on the cloud, I have to use my selection tool, click the cloud, that highlights the whole outside of the cloud as it's select.
No fill.
Exactly. So it's no fill. If I want to make it a fill color, I'll just click that one and then make sure the highlight is checked, and then you're all set.
Do you find it's a general rule to make sure you have that highlight box checked if you're doing multiple things, so that way you don't accidentally block things?
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on what you're doing. So if you're just doing highlighting, just make sure your tools are defaulted for highlight on, you know?
So not even just highlighting in general, but like say if you're doing like a lot of markups, I'm just asking, like, do you find it better to keep your box checked as a highlight so you don't accidentally cover other things process by accident?
Yeah, it's definitely a good practice to set them up as highlight, especially if that's what your intent is. Some tools I use, like I'll use a rectangle tool for highlight. So sometimes I use it for drawing a rectangle, and sometimes I use it for highlight because I'm highlighting a bigger area. And we'll go over that a little bit more when we get into the rectangle. But depending on the tool you use and what your frequency is of using that tool, I mean, it could be different. So some tools, yes, I will definitely default them as highlight, and other ones I'll leave alone because I'll toggle back and forth between what I'm using them for. Features of the cloud. If I click on this cloud, you can see it's got those 4 points on the outside, like we said before with text box. If you grab those, you can make it bigger or smaller by just clicking those. You can also grab these other points here and shift them around if you want to make it a more irregular shape. You can also add a point to this. Yes, you can get really creative. Right click on it, control point, add control point, and that lets you further change the dynamic of the shape. And you'll find that more with some of these other tools like Polyline and Polygon, where they have multiple points in there. Once you've established that you want a shape that has more than 4 points, it will give you the option to adding additional points. So this point to point here, I can only do this, but if I added a point in the middle, I could change that dynamic a little bit more. Again, with cloud, I can change the frequency of those turns. So there's a size right down here, and I can change it, and I can make it bigger, or I can make them smaller and tighter. I can change the line width and make them bolder. We can invert it if you're like that kind of thing. I don't, so I'll leave that unchecked. And you can change all your color configurations as you want to. We said with this, cloud is a momentary tool. So if I use cloud and I make a cloud in here, my tool reverts to its former self. I reviewed this in the last class, and one of the guys really liked the idea of it. You can make this a permanent tool, which means it stays in your hand until you choose another tool. You can come up to Review, Preferences, and Tools, Reuse Tools, right here. If I click the Reuse Tools button and hit OK, now if I click the cloud, I can make clouds all day long just by clicking the button. If I right click, I should get out of it. And also sometimes, let me do that again. If you just select this, the select tool, you can get out of it again. that's the kind of detracting feature is not, sometimes if you have it set to permanent tool or reuse tool, you don't want it in your hand anymore. You want to do the one thing and you want to, select or grab or do whatever. But you have to remember to go back and right click and get out of it or use another tool. But I don't typically set my tools up that way unless I have some process that it's a little back and forth with the clicking, and I just set it up. You can also stitch a cloud. So what does stitching a cloud mean? Well, what I did before with a cloud is I selected it and I just clicked one corner and I dragged, right? And that makes a cloud. So you can stitch a cloud by clicking it and say, I don't know, say I just want to select around this cloud right here, right? I have to make something a little bit more tricky here. I don't know. Yeah, I'll say we're just going to do around this one right here. So I could click the drawing once, click and release. All right, and you can see that pins the first point of the cloud, right? And now I can drag wherever I want to go. Well, I'm going to stitch around this thing, so I'll click and release again, 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 and then I can double click, and that will close the shape. And you can see there's a lot more points in here now too, because depending on what you're doing, I mean, sometimes you'll see this in text documents, and someone's trying to select a specific word in here with a cloud, or a part of a sentence. They'll select cloud, and they'll say click and release, 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 and double click. And maybe that gives them more of a selection field around what they want to do. Maybe maybe the size comes down a little bit more to tighten it up. You know what I mean? If you've seen this before, this is added text or something like that. It just gives it an easier way to be tighter with the clouds that you draw. Okay, I think that's probably as far as we really need to go with the cloud tool. The next one is callout tool, and callout tool is again one that I use a lot. Clearly, I use callout tool a lot in here, and like I said, I have my own preferences to what the properties are. But there's callout tool. Right now, because I've been doing these classes, my properties are all screwed up, but there's a few more options in here for callout tool. When I do mine, I like to have mine just with an end. I don't typically like to have a point at the end of mine, but you can do lots of different things. So we can set the properties up right now. I like to have the blue color as my border. I like my fill color to be a pale yellow. And particularly, I don't like the arrow. I just like the straight line. And the font color, I like that to be blue as well. So then I will center it, and I'll save it as my default. And now if I click the screen and drag out and type the box, it gives me what I'm looking for. Looks like I missed something here, so I didn't outline my box. To outline my box, I have to change this line width here. Just change that a little bit. And now I can say this is default again. And now if I come up here and I do my call out box, now I have a border on there. And with these, if you want, you can change this end to have an arrow, or maybe you want to put a little bullet on the end of it. And Maybe you want to fill that bullet in. Just do that. So now you get a dot on the end of it. These are all options that are in the properties. You can change the font if you want. There's tons of different fonts you can put in there. Adobe Gothic. You can also change where your callout's coming from, where it's coming from on your text box here. So if you go to move this, you can see that this point is pinned with the object as you're trying to select. And then you can pull your text box wherever you want. And as you're moving around, you can see it grabs a different point of the box, which what makes sense to the program of where it should attach. You can also manually move that. You can also add an additional point. You could say that I want to call out two different things. So you could right click on this and hit add a leader and pops you another leader over. It assumes I want it there, but I can always take it and drag it right up there. I can add another point, add another leader over here. Now if I go move this text box, you can see it. It may try to reconfigure these things depending on where it thinks these should be, but at the end of the day, you can move them wherever you want. Over there. You can also delete a leader if you add too many. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll take this whole thing, right? And I will control and click and hold and drag, and I can make a direct copy of what this is and put it someplace else. Maybe you're doing some repetitive tasks that makes sense for you to do. And maybe this leader now doesn't have any relevance anymore. I can just right click on this and delete the leader, and that one goes away. So again, that last move was hold the control button, click on the object, and drag it. You're clicking and holding and dragging that around to a different area. And then you're releasing, and now you have a duplicate of that. And you can change where your leaders are going. Sometimes that can be just a quicker way to kind of do things. I pretty much would do it in situations like this where I have a lot of things to call out and I'm just changing my text a little bit. You know, I would take this and I would control, select, drag, and then I just change it to something else, the text. And I have the same kind of configuration, and it just saved me a little bit of time with recreating it from scratch. Okay. I think that's all I really have with call out and call out. Or Cloud Plus and Cloud. Does anybody have any questions on those ones before I take any steps forward? We're going to be going over a lot more shapes and things like that. I don't want to spend too much time on the properties of these things because they're very repetitive. And they seem pretty simple as we go forward. But if there's something that you really want to dial into, just let me know. The next one we have to review is this stamp button. I find it pretty useful. I don't know if I actually have a stamp set up in here right now. And I do not. So I will make a stamp for you guys from scratch, maybe. You can do one. Stamp is a good thing to use if I'm trying to authorize something, or if maybe I'm going through a submittal review or something like that, and I just want a general stamp in there. I wind up signing a lot of documents too, where I'm at, you know. So if you find yourself having to sign a lot of documents, you can use a stamp with your signature on it. I save it and then I have it. To do that, first thing you need to do is send yourself a picture of your signature. So if you look at this here, that's basically what that is. I signed a piece of paper and then I took a picture of it. Now you can see the background is all gray here, or dark gray. And that's because when you take a picture of a piece of paper, you know, you don't always get a clean white background on it, right? It's just a shading. Depends on how well your flash is and how bright the area you're in. But this one was in a dark area. So what happens is you take a picture of your name, you email it to yourself, and then you can use this image button up here to bring it onto your screen. And then you can modify this image a little bit. And how you would do that is you input it just like this and click on it. And then this properties window will open up here. And there's a button in here called mask color. And if you select it and you select this little eyedropper here, you can select the shade that you want to remove from the text, from this image. So I can say, well, this is gray stuff. That looks pretty good to me. So it's setting that as a mask color. And if I reduce it, or increase the mask, I guess, there we go. You can see it's starting to strip the color away. This is usually when my computer crashes. And it's not failing to do that right now. I'm not going to try to push the envelope anymore, but that's kind of why I put these other images here. I was hoping this was going to work, but basically you keep removing that mask color until you get to a point that's like this. And then I'll actually take a snapshot of the cleaned up one. And then I have it. I have to actually unlock this now. Check this out. And now I have a clean name. And that.
And how do you store that?
Well, right now it's on this page, which is it's stored. You'd have to find some place to store it. But this is the first part of making a stamp, is getting a clean name. You know, if that's what you're looking to do, is get your name clean here. When you go into Stamp will actually open a different tab. So you say, just kind of back out here, yeah. I say I want to create a stamp. I come down and I say Create Stamp, and will give me some options, how big you want the stamp to be. If you want to use a template, sometimes I will do this one here, text with rounded border. If you want to change some of the things here, we can do Sully matte green, maybe. I don't know if there's a darker green, close enough. Line color. And I'll just call it test stamp, I guess. Okay. And now it's a test stamp. Okay. If I don't want that text in there, I can change that to something else. I can call it a sorry, we get out of this. So that could be a stamp. I could say, well, that's too big because I can't. There wasn't a lot of room for my signature. So I can say, I can change the font. So now the font, I can make it maybe 22, right? And I can take that text box and I can move it someplace else. I can then come back to where I have my signature stored, and I can right-click and copy it, and then come back to my test stamp and right-click and paste it, and now my name's in there, or somebody's name's in there. You know, move it around, you know, however you want to do it, you know. You can also add a text box in here and change my properties of my text box to be nothing and nothing. And then I can use this dynamic thing here. And dynamic will give me the ability to maybe change the date, put the date in here. Now this doesn't look so clean. I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing things with it, but I'm just going to save it the way it is and say, yeah, that's fine with me. I'll save it. And now that's a test stamp. So if I come back into my stamps, I have test stamp here. And if I click it, that's what it looks like. And it's still not working. Sorry, guys. Looks like I'm having some technical difficulties with this one again, but that's I don't want to spend too much time with stamp. We can definitely get into it a little bit more, but that's in it essentially what it is. Once you have that saved in here, you're inside here. There are other stamps you can use in here too by default. I just like the ones that are specific by timestamps and that have my signature on them, so there's no question. You can take a look through and see, but basically when you click on them, you can just drag them, and that's what it is. This one here actually has a timestamp right on it, you know, and you may even be able to go in there. You can. It'll allow you to edit that. So if I wanted to edit that one, I should be able to, you know, put this as a oh. Yeah, it's not. It's saying don't do that. It's going to screw up your. It's going to screw up your default. So I'm not going to get into that. All right. Sorry about that one. That was a little bit limited, I guess. But
Because you're already using it at a place on your computer, it's not gonna let you do it.
it would have let me do it. It's just making me take additional steps to make the edits. It just wants it's not going to let it make it that easy for me because it doesn't want me to screw up the defaults. You know, once you change the default, it's changed. That's kind of what it was tell me. But you can use them, or you can make your own here. Clearly, if I had chosen a better text, it would have fit in there better. But it should have been able to edit it. I could be having a little bit of technical difficulty because of the size of the document I have here too. All right, so that's stamp. Image is next, and image ties into what we were talking about with the signatures. If I go back to my document here, I have we have something with image down here. Oh my goodness. There we go. Images. So these are images, obviously. If you want to import an image into your document, you would select that button, image, and it would ask you where you're going to go to find that image. I don't have any images out here right now. If there's anything that's stored in here, doesn't look like there is. Should be able to import one now. Go back into here maybe, and I come in here and photos, grab a photo in here of maybe this, you can download it. And okay, go back into here, see downloads. There's my image now. I select that image, open it. When I do, it shows me a little thumbnail in my properties of where it is, what it looks like. It will allow me to make some changes to that image if I'd like to. again, the same mask colors in here. So if I wanted to change something on that image, I could do that. I think I have an extra page down here. Let me just drop a new page in here. I'm going to right click on this. And I'm going to put it in a blank page. Insert pages, insert blank page. And I want to put it last page. So it dropped the tool that I had, but I can go back and get it again. So I hit image, I click this tool or this photo, and I hit open. There it is now. And you can see when the cursor's in the drawing, it has a little icon similar to the one in the toolbar up here that shows that it's ready to put it in. If I click now and hold and drag, it populates that image on the page. So there's a few things you can do with this while it's in here. Like I said, you know, if you wanted to get into masking colors, I don't want to crash my computer again, but you could do the same thing. Hit the mask color, use the eyedropper, pick a specific color. And once the mask color is chosen, you can start to reduce colors. Again, I'm not going to play with this too much because I don't want to crash things. And photographs are a little bit different. There's different shading on things that make the colors different. So you can see if I'm starting to reduce colors, it's doing some things, but it's not doing other things. So I don't know if it's really that necessary for doing this for this tool, but you just have the option here. You can also crop it. See this crop button here? So if you want only a portion of this image, crop it. And you can say, I only want this to be in there, and it will take the rest of it away.
Can you crop it into small business?
In here, this is just the thumbnail that shows you what's going on in here. No, you're not cropping it here. You're going to crop it right inside here. You can rotate the image with this. You can, again, stretch things out a little bit if you want, grabbing the corners. If you grab the midpoint, you're going to stretch that image and change the dynamic of it. So just be careful about that. Sometimes it throws things off. You can also use these couple of tools over here, which is the flips. So if you want to rotate the image to have the reverse image, and you can use this the other way as well. That's really all I have for image. The next one I have is this snapshot tool. Snapshot is a good tool. I use Snapshot a lot. Like we talked about with Clipboard, when you use Snapshot, it holds that image in your clipboard until you paste things. So I had a document here, and I had this room highlighted, and I wanted to take a snapshot of this area. I can just click that tool and click and drag a square around that whole area. It processes it. I come down and I can say, I don't look at this thing anymore. Delete this. And you can right click and paste it right in here. I might say, oh crap, this is the wrong orientation here, so I can rotate this page. And then I can take this thing and actually drag it out so it fills the whole page if I want to do that.
Can you do that to just do a quick print, just kind of like snapshot?
You can actually use that in the print feature. So if you wanted to print a drawing, you know, like we talked about this last time, if you wanted to do that same thing, you could come into this file and then hit the print button. And print gives you the option in here of get window. You hit get window, you can select this tool right here.
I didn't,
And now it gives you that. Was that another class? I'm sorry, they're all starting to blend together now. Did we even go over that?
That's why we're in class.
Okay. Okay, sorry, I thought I went over that last time. That was the print. I thought, didn't I go over that? No?
oh, I did, I just didn't know the get window.
Get window, yeah, a lot of foremen really like the get window one. It really makes things, yeah. Yeah. So that's the tool I would use if I was going to do that, if I wanted to eliminate it. The snapshot thing is good if you want to attach things to an email or something like that, or if you want to just cancel this, get out of this. Or if you want to make a sketch of a specific area, you know. But this is a snapshot too, and the snapshot is a markup. The whole thing's a markup. So with it, you can change the properties of that and the colors and all kinds of stuff. So if I wanted to, I could get rid of this yellow altogether. I could say source color is this yellow, and I want to make the source color nothing. And it says, hey, be careful, you're going to remove all that stuff. So yep, I want to do that. And then the thumbnail tells me exactly what it's going to look like. I hit OK, and now that color's gone.
Inside that, like the triangles for the telephone.
Yep.
Can you just click on one of those and then if you have to go separately?
Unfortunately, you can't identify within there. I mean, you might be able to hit it, and I'll show you what I mean. If I come into change colors and I hit the source color, there's only one black in here now. Now, if you notice, the background of all this stuff, except for the text, is like gray. So if I want to change the black to say red and hit OK, you can see that all the text that was similar has turned red. But no, you can't go in there and just isolate one of those.
You could make a triangle tool and just do it
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, that's you know, I think you can actually make a triangle, you know, with the shape. It would probably be Polygon here, right? You come in, you click, and then double click here, and then there's your triangle, right? And now because you've made a tool, it's here in your toolbox. You can just drag it up here, and actually, yeah, unfortunately, that's not doing it. I have to think of a better way to do that so that it stays. And maybe if you put a
Snapshot, you guys snapshot that?
snapshot would work. If you'd have to get into a clean drawing and snapshot it.
I think you can right click it.
It's the shape. What it is that's a polygon, and because the polygon, it's saving the tool as a polygon. What I could do is I could probably, you know, add something to this. Maybe inside here. Again, I freaking screwed all my properties up here, but this red. I guess that doesn't matter. So I'll do that. Reduce this to nothing. Change this to like freaking 2. And maybe that's too small. I can make it.
And you just fill it in color and color.
Well, what I'm saying is if I did something like that, and then I took that and I grouped this together with something else, now it becomes more of an image that I can kind of grab and drag in there now. You know, it gets a little confused when it just sees a shape. It's just like you just want to save the shape. I mean, you can, you know, but that works. Now I have a grouping together like that. And it's not a perfect example, but I mean, just to cover what you were kind of going for there. If you needed to, you could definitely do that. And then you just take it and save it in your tools, and it's always there, you know. And just because it's grouped together, you could change that to a different value, you know. Oop. And put that someplace else. It's still two different things. You just group the shape with a text box, you know. You can also use text box for that now, like we talked about last week. And use text box. You can change the shape of a text box to a triangle. And then just say, that's a 4. And again, I didn't default it right, but there. We make this like a freaking 8. Back this all the way out again. This is all more of the reason to set your properties up before you do things. It's too big there. Oh, you know what? I didn't. It's killing me. I have to put the lines on. So it's 8, and then I have to give it some line. And then that's a little big though. That's probably because the text box is just showing so big. There you go. You know, anyway, there's different ways you could do it.
I guess you would set that all up ahead of time.
Yeah.
So that when you click on it, it's automatically.
Right.
How you want.
Right. With text box, unfortunately, it's bound by this shape here. So you can only shrink that to a certain extent because the text box is going to be a minimum size. So if you wanted something different, you'd have to do a grouping configuration like this. It's the only way to really get it to go. In which case, you're kind of putting a clear text box over a shape, and now it's going to be as small as you need it to be.
To group it, you have to right click.
Yeah, grouping allows you to put two. You have to select two shapes together. So if you wanted to group stuff, you'd say, okay, I want to draw a square, and then I want to draw a circle, and I want to group those two things together. I would click that, and I would shift and click the other item, so they're both highlighted. Then I would hover over one of the selected items and right click, and it opens up this group. And that's a group now. Now those things move together. Very handy tool for aligning things. You know, you can rotate them and they stay together. Okay.
Can you pick a degree on your rotation?
I can do that. Yes, we talked about that last time. So when you select that item and you go into your properties down the bottom here, you have a rotation window. Okay. So right now that's at 90 degrees of where this is supposed to be. I can make this 91 degrees if I wanted to. And that says 1 degree right now, but I say 91 degrees. Now it's 91 degrees. I can make it 91.1 degree if I wanted to. I'm going to screw it up too bad. But, I mean, you have a lot of variability here with this. Again, like we talked about last week, if you use this up-down arrow, it will change it by 1 degree. Sometimes it's an easy way to align things. You can also use the rotate, and that will rotate default by 15 degrees. Or if you hold the shift button, you can do any variation. All right. Anybody else? All right, good. So with snapshot, go back to my snapshot. You can change colors. You can also, with snapshot, flip your perspective. This can be kind of handy too if you have some rooms. You know, we have a lot of rooms that are you don't get the layout for every single room. but you have like one typical layout, and then you have all other similar rooms. You can use this tool to kind of overlay your layout for your default room onto all your other rooms, even if they're mirror imaged. You can change the scale of this as well. So there's a scale button in here. Where is it? Right here. So when I copied this out of the file, this file saw this image as specific size. And when I copied it like that. If I pasted that directly, if I just hit this as copy, I selected that. Well, that's an image there, but if I have to use the image here, sorry, select in, I just copied this out of here. And I came down here, instead of having this image in here, I just right-clicked and pasted it. It's pasting at the same size and scale as I copied it out of the other drawing. So you can see right here, it's at 100% scale. If I knew that was a 1/8 scale, and I wanted to make this 1/4 scale, I just make this 200%. And now I know it's to scale, 1/4 scale. So it's kind of good for a sketch if you just kind of want to blow it up or layout or something like that, to use the scale a little bit. It's a good way to try to keep things pretty close. Right. If you got one room you want to do, maybe it's a kitchen or something like that, and you have that layout, it's good to have something you can actually read. I don't know what you guys, but I can't read 1/8 scale anymore without help. Okay, I think that gets me through. Where are we? We're at 11 o'clock, so we're still got a long way to go here. So I'm gonna move on to my shapes now. My first one is line, and go back up to my main page here. A lot of crap on here right now, so I'm just gonna select a lot of this stuff and delete it out of there. All that stuff. Okay, so line, right? We already kind of went through pen and highlight here, and line is a similar kind of a tool. When you select a line, you get crosshair, and your property window will open up for your line properties. Again, you can make this a highlight. It's another means of highlighting. You can change the width of the line, the style of the line. There's lots of things you can do with line. And when you click the first point, unlike marker or pen, it's pinning that one point. You're not drawing with line. A line, by definition, is the straight portion between 2 points. So you're just going to make 2 points with a line. You connect the first point. You can, however, hold the shift button. So I'm holding this slightly askew. As soon as I hit the shift button, it snaps me to a straight line. Okay. If I hold it closer to a 45, it will actually hold the 45-degree angle. And again, if I hold it a 90 or 180, somewhere in there, it's going to snap me to that. So this tool actually makes things a little bit easier to do your highlighting thing. If you try to get in line there, you can kind of make sure that it's where you want before you click the last point and say, yep, that's my line right there. You can also grab the line and move the line. You can't rotate this line like you can with some of those other shapes, right? There's no blue dot so you can rotate it. You can rotate it and still hold the shift button and get back to a different plane. And again, you can drag it around. You can copy that line like we talked about before with the shift and control buttons there. If I hold the control button while that's selected, hold the control button and click and drag it, I'm making a duplicate of that line. You do it again and make another duplicate. Trickier is if I want to align these, right? So let's say, hey, I don't want that to be like that. I'd say I want to align my lines. I could say I want to control, click that line and drag it. And as I'm dragging it, I release the control button, hold the shift button, and now you can see it's locked in. I have a copy of it and it's locked in. When I release the click button, it places it. I can then hold the control button again, click and drag, release the control button, hold the shift button. Now if I let go of the shift button, you can see I'm floating all over the place. I hold the shift button, it holds me in line. So now those three lines are perfectly in line. Again, this is a momentary tool. So if I use the line and I click and click again, it's gone. So you can hit that reuse button if you want, or you can double click on the line. It's another way to do that. If you find that you're using a tool more repetitively, I can say line, 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 line. You know, you can actually hold the shift, click, hold the shift button, draw a line, and then click again. Click again. You know, it's a little trickier to do this way, to try to have parallel lines that are intersecting. You can see that I got a lot of spaces in there. So again, for highlighting's sake, if you're talking about a one line, this is not really a great way to do it. Not quite to the tool that I want to show you yet. With line, again, you have highlight or you can have the opacity. I'm not going to go into those anymore because we've already kind of reviewed that. You can change your line width real easy. You can change your start or end to a arrow or a point. I mean, these are very similar to the caller tools we've already reviewed. Okay, I think that's really it I can cover for line. And moving into arrow, arrow is just a line with an arrow in the end that you can change to not be an arrow at all. So again, these are more tools to really be able to set up as default, right? You can set your line up as however you want it, and then always have your arrow to go to. And sometimes that's all I want is an arrow. You know, I don't want a call out box. I'm just trying to highlight it. If I want someone to sign something, I'll put the arrow right there and say, sign here, and there's my arrow. It's default. I'm not rechanging and redefaulting my tools. And you can see I've been having trouble, you know, with the way I've been setting up some of these tools. Even my defaults are screwed up now because I've been changing them around so much. So having tools set up that by default is kind of a good thing. Again, all these other properties in here are identical to line. Arc is where things get a little trickier. If you select arc and select the point, it's going to draw an arc. An arc is a portion of a circle or an ellipse, I guess, right? If you hold the shift button in arc, it's going to keep that shape in a very particular radius, right? You can see it's growing. This is actually a 90, right? If I click that, that's a 90 right there. A 90 is a quarter of a circle. And when I released it, you can see this outline, this dotted outline here with grab handles. And this will allow me to modify this arc further. I can drag this point to wherever I want into a radius of right up to 360 degrees if I needed to do that. So again, sometimes if I'm drawing lines to represent raceways or pipes or whatever, I like to have this arc so that I can continue on to things. But it's a little tricky. You know, you have to align a lot of these things and drag in to try to make what you're trying to do. It's a little bit of a piecemeal thing. But it is one way to do it. I have a better way that I'm going to show once I get to the next tool, which is probably my favorite tool. So if you can hold on to that one, you know, you can manipulate it here. You can also drag it from your midpoints. Sorry, that's not a midpoint. To make it more of an irregular shape. Holding the shift button though, it should select it. Snaps it right back to that true 90. And then you can kind of make it larger or smaller as you need to. So that's arc. Okay, my favorite one, Polyline. That's the one I like. I like Polyline for highlighting. Specifically, I'm going to highlight a one line, and I'm going to show you why. Selecting Polyline, obviously I get the properties window over here again. I can change my color to make it the green, good highlighting color. Make sure the highlight's on, and it's a straight line. I can make it different things too, but for all intents and purposes, I'll keep it that way for now. So I get these irregular shapes in here, right? Let's just try to trace this one line out here. Where's it go? Looks like it goes to this one. So I can just hover over this line now. Now that I have it selected, maybe I'll just push this up a little bit, make it like 3. Okay, and watch how quick this works. I'm going to click, and then I'm going to click again. I'm going to follow this. I'm going to click again, and I'm going to double click, and I'm done. And that followed that real quick. There's no real alignment, no other thing, and I didn't have to hold the shift button to hold it straight. I could see with the crosshairs pretty clear where the intersects were. You know, it didn't even go where I thought I was going to go because I was looking at the wrong line. I'll do another one, make it a different color. So again, I'll hold the polyline. I'll change this little to maybe this pink color over here. And even if I'm zoomed out, I can pretty much see with my intersect where it's lining up. Here, I'm just dragging, click and drag, 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 click and drag. If I really want to get finicky, I could hold the shift button, but it's so close, and then double click, and that's done. It may be a little bit too small for me, so I could just bump up on the line size. I can see I forgot to change it to highlight. Now I can change it to highlight, and I'm done. That's why I like the tool. It's so fast. You know, it highlights really well for lines and things like that. With this tool as well, if I'm saying that, say this line represented a pipe run or something that I wanted to draw, and I didn't like the sharp 90 here, I could make this a radius pretty easily too by adding some control points and deleting some. So I'll say I want to add a control point there. I want to add a control point here. And I'm going to take this one, I'm going to pull it out, subtract this control point, and then I'm going to click on this line, right click on that line, convert to arc. And it's arcing the wrong way, but it's easy enough for me to fix it. I just take these little grab handles and I pull this thing back the other way. You know, just make sure it's straight. Just align the 2 lines there. You know, and now it's a smooth line, and I've just made a radius out of it. I haven't really mastered the whole always make it the same direction, but I know how to change them, so it's not that big a deal. Again, control point, add a control point, add a control point, subtract this control point, right click on the line, convert it to arc, and that one worked. Again, they really just put these little grab handles in here that help you deflect the line a little bit better. Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot more on that one. I mean, Polyline it works really good as that kind of tool for tracing things too, you know. So that's why I use it a lot. So that's pretty much all I was going to cover with the Polyline anyway. The next tool we have here is the dimension tool. Now, dimension tool, you shouldn't confuse that with the measuring tool. Dimension tool is really if you're going to say make a sketch or something. I don't know. If you're going to make a sketch here and you want to say the distance between these 2 devices was 2 feet, you click on this thing and you'd say, all right, from this point, and I'll hold my shift button to this point, is 2 foot, 0 inches. And you can enter that value in there. You can actually put a little hyphen in there too if you want. But this is an editable field. You know, it's not the scale, but that's the point. If you don't have a scale drawing, you know, you just have a sketch and you need a means to show what a dimension is, that's the tool you use. You can drag this and it's not going to change your value. All you're really trying to do is tell somebody what the distance is between two things. And I do use it for that. You know, if I have a sketch that's not the scale, that's what I'll use. If it is the scale, then it's very easy to use the measuring tool. This is the measuring tool over here. I'm using the measuring tool. I use this length, and I'll select a point, and I'll shift, and I'll come over and select another point. And now this is asking me, what's the scale? You know, what is the scale here? I'll say it's a preset scale. It's a quarter-inch scale. Apply the scale. Now it's going to tell me it's 4'4". So now it's, I mean, if in fact this is a scale drawing, quarter-inch scale, that's the dimension that it is. And again, if I took that and I dragged that one out, you can see it changes as I'm pulling the line. So the dimension is something you use if you're trying to tell somebody what the dimension is. Length is what you do is if you have a scaled file and you're trying to establish what lengths are. Call out. Get out of this. Get that out of there. So I got to get out of this one though. So properties of this, again, very similar. You may not like the selection that they have for callout, which is this arrow and arrow. You can change that. Some people like to do the slash to show what those are, or nothing at all. You just do the straight line. That's just the point, you know. But you can, however you want to do it, you can set that up that way. You can also grab this and relocate it if you need to. Sometimes with this, it can be in the way of something. So you might want to grab the text, hold the shift button, grab the text, and move it someplace else. And sometimes the text does jump around like that. You can just take that little directional tool, and now it's looking a little bit better, right? And that, again, that's holding the shift button. You get onto the text, hold the shift button, click the text, and drag it someplace. That's all that is. Again, those shift and control buttons, just playing around with them, you pick up a lot of stuff. You can change your callouts to different types of lines too. I don't know if you really want to use a cloud line for that. I don't know, that's not the right. Sorry, that's the wrong one. This one, you have to select it first. Well, good. It doesn't give you the cloud line. I'm happy about that. But you can use a dash line if you want, if you know, so inclined. Again, these are all very similar to the other properties of the other shapes and things. All right, so now we're getting into a rectangle. All right, a couple more of these things. We're still doing pretty good for time. Go back up and we'll do rectangle for a little bit. And get rid of some of this other crap that's in here. All right, so rectangle. Draw a rectangle. You can click once in the drawing with rectangle and drag, and you can draw that rectangle in any shape you want, or I should say any orientation you want, any size you want. If you hold the shift button, it will hold that into a square. You can drag that out to whatever size you want, but the shift button holds it as a true square. Click the other side, and then it fixes the square. Once the square is in there, again, you can use it to rotate. You can use these midpoints, and not everything has midpoints that work this way, to stretch that thing into a rectangle. Midpoints are pretty good if you only want to grow in one direction, but you want to leave the other direction alone. If you grab the corner, that's going to allow you to pull that in both directions. Again, holding the shift button will keep that into the square. Just like some of these other tools, you can have it as a fill. You can change the color of the perimeter line. You can remove the perimeter line. You can make it a highlight. You can change the style of the line around the box. But you need to make it visible. So again, a lot of the same properties as the other ones. Strangely enough, this one does come with a cloud line, so you can make a cloud out of a rectangle. You can also fill with hatch. So right now it has nothing. You can hatch it with diagonal lines. You can hatch it with a bunch of dots. And I do use this a lot. Typically I'll be maybe like gray or something like that, and I'll try to show something. Those hatches pretty good to use. There's a lot of different patterns you can have here. Typically I'll use the dots, or I'll use the slashes. Diagonal up, diagonal down. Make it brickwork if you want. These, however, it's like a default hatch background. As I rotate this, you'll see that the hatch doesn't change. It's the same orientation. Hatch won't move. You can, however, change the scale, I guess. I'm sorry, that's that. Scale here. To make them bigger, make them smaller. Okay, that's rectangle. Ellipse is next, or circle. Similar to the square, you pin the first corner and then you can drag that to drag it in any direction you want. Also similar, if you hold the shift button, you will hold a true circle. If I click the other side, you can see this one here also has midpoints. So I can drag that midpoint out and make a more of an ellipse of it. And if I drag the corner out, I can drag it in any direction I want. Again, holding the shift button will keep it a circle. Similar to rectangle, you have the ability to hatch, highlight, fill the line. Again, cloud it if you wanted to cloud it. So all those things are very similar. I don't know if I can actually add a, yeah, these ones you can't add points to as shapes. The only ones you really can add points to are the Polygon and the Polyline. These ones are pretty much default this way. Okay. The next one is Polygon. This is the Polygon. Polygon is a pretty cool tool too, and I will use Polygon if I'm trying to trace a room sometimes, especially if it's in a irregular shape. I had done it down here. That is actually a polygon. So if I was to just delete that, and I did Polygon in here, and I wanted to trace this room, I could start anywhere I wanted to. Say I'd start right down here, and I'd click, and I'd drag and click, drag and click. I say click and move, I should say. I'm not really dragging it. I'm just clicking, releasing, and moving. As I click, release, and move. Maybe this room is tracing to here. Click, release, and move. You can see I'm off a little bit there. And I can either click it, or I could have double clicked at the last point. Now that I've done that, I can see that I need to make some edits, so I can take things and drag them around a little bit. And that's a shape. I can make that filled if I want. Highlight it. I could add some control points in here if I wanted to. I could say add a control point. And move things around a little bit. Add a control point. Add a control point. Not that this is what you want to do, but if you needed to repair something because you missed something, you could just add these points in here. To fix something. With Polygon, you can also do that shift hold thing. If I wanted to make the lines a little straighter, wanted to do another one in here, Polygon. You just have to remember to release the shift button between clicks. So I'm clicking and dragging. If I hold the shift button, it will snap me up true. And I can click again, but then I have to release the shift button, let it travel, hold the shift button, click, release the shift button, hold the shift button, click. It's important to release between clicks. Obviously, you don't want to hold the shift button if you're not 45 or 90 degrees. So some of these you might not be able to do that way. But the straight ones, you can hold the shift button, get it true, and then that one's in there. You can also do the hatch in here, right? You can do diagonal lines and say that room's not part of our scope of work, whatever. Sometimes I will use Polygon if I have an electric room or something like that. I'm trying to trace just so I can do some edits. I might trace out the whole electric room, and I might just copy and paste that someplace else and then fill it in with my equipment. You know, and then I can have an accurate representation of what that layout is.
But it won't give you a scale.
That one won't, unless you're tracing off something scaled. Like we said, if you could say that, you know, this is scaled now, right? This one's scaled because I copied it and I changed the properties to be scaled. That's now 1/4 inch scale drawing right there. And like, I mean, I don't know if we probably haven't reviewed this, but there are ways to check that. Probably get into it if I can make it this far. Might have to wait till another class for it though. But checking scale, the best thing to do to check scale is to find a structural drawing that has column lines, and then you can have a known value and then check what that is. If it says it's 30 feet, then that should be 30 feet. And when you scale it, it should say 30 feet. You know, a lot of people try to do the door thing. The door thing will work, you know, to get you out of a bind, because a door is typically it's 3 feet, but it could be 30 inches, could be 4 feet, you know, and depends on what you click too. You know, you could be off a few inches there, and then you're only measuring something that's 3 feet long, as opposed to, you know, something 30 feet long that has more or size to it. So for me, I prefer to try to scale things by measuring the structural files. The next 3 or 4 shapes here, they're similar to the ones we just reviewed, but they're sketched to scale. And they have some pluses and minuses that go with them. And we can talk about them a little bit as we review. Polygon sketch to scale and Polygon tool, similar to the Polygon tool. The difference is, get into this file. It gives you some different options when you go to sketch things out. So I'll say I'm going to start right here. And oh boy, I don't want to do it. I can't do this. This angle thing will drive me nuts. Let's just do this room here, this tel beta room. So I'm going to click in right here, and it's going to give me some options here where I want to go. I can move up, and you can see it's telling me how long this thing is as I travel up, and it tells me the rotation of the line as well. So when I'm true 90, it shows I'm actually true 90 there. Shift isn't really, shift is helping me here, so that's good. I can hold my shift to hold me true 90, and I can click again, and I can see right there it's 8'2" and change or whatever. Then I'm going in my another direction. It's about 16.1, clicking, dragging down, clicking again. And now I have a shape that that has some dimensions to it. I don't see anything there, but that's part of what you can determine with your properties. So I can show my segment values if I wanted, and that's showing me the actual dimensions on these. You can see I'm not true because this side of the wall I'm 8'2" and 7/8", and this side I'm 8'3"1/4. But that's part of that not really snapping in the right spot, you know. If you had a sense of what this was, you could actually draw a rectangle, and the rectangle could show you. You could tell the values tell the shape what values you wanted to scale to. This was just me snapping around the room and getting these dimensions. So if I didn't want that, I'd just untick that box. I could show a caption, and it could show me the square footage. I can also change that to be length and height. Again, I mean, those can be some good things if you're trying to get a sense for some room sizes, and you just want to use the tracing tool to do that. Polygon, usually you're using Polygon if you have an oddball kind of a room. Otherwise, you just use a rectangle. But if I want to come in here, I could use that again. Come in here and click, 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 and then double click. Actually, I probably have to change that a little bit. Make that more accurate. Right. And now if I show the caption here, it's telling me the square footage of that space. As long as it knows what the scale is of the spaces, it can dial that right in. Editing it later, it's again, it doesn't it's not very easy to align this thing to a square. So like I said, you can't really hold the shift button to align it. You're kind of dragging it around a little bit to try to get it right. That's one of the things I don't like about it.
Good question.
Yeah.
I know this is looking at it from a flat point of view. Like, could you use the same thing on an elevation drawing?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. As long as you know the height of the room, you know, it can give you that kind of information. So we talked about the rectangle too. If I use the rectangle room to scale something out here, let's do this one over here. It's a square room. So if I click it once, it asks me what size it is. I can actually put that information in there. If I drag this thing out and say, well, it looks like it's 7/11 3/8. It's like, well, it's not 7/11 3/8. It's 8 feet. So I can actually type 8 feet right in there. 8 foot 0 inches. And then I can hit the tab button and it will push me to the other portion of this. And if I start dragging it down, I can see that it's about 9 foot 10, you know, so I can just type that in there, 9 foot 10 inches, and hit the enter button, and it will show me that specifically, you know, instead of getting into all this tweaking and being off. Now again, same thing, I can show the segment values, and now you see they're exactly aligned. Except the fact that this says 7'11" and 9/16, not 8 feet. I don't know what happened. Yeah, I know. Gotta love these little anomalies. I don't know what happened there. That should have been 8 feet. Yeah, it's good stuff. This will make the laugh track afterwards. Yeah, I'm not sure why they did that. That should be better. But
Can you edit that number?
editing is a little tough, Bob. You again, it's a scale thing. So I mean, you have to drag the line, you know. So, and it's fucking. This is one of the reasons why I don't like this thing. You know, you get.
Looks like it's telling you.
Ooh, so that-
Yeah, so we could be here.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, you know, we could be here for a while doing this, and you know, so it's good for area, you know. So if you're trying to get the area of a room, it works pretty well. I don't like it for this. I mean, if I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna try to get an actual size. I'll probably use my measure tool, and I'll use the rectangle, because that I have more grab points. This doesn't have mid grab points. It doesn't. You can see it's just got these guys here, right? So all I can do is really stretch it. I mean, it is kind of cool that I can grab it and stretch it, and it will give me the new size or the new area of the space. But I don't like it for specifics. You know, if it wants to be within 1/16 of an inch or something like that, it's a little tough for me to get there. So if I was going to do an actual rectangle to size, I would use my measure tool. And I would say, I want this thing to be, let's see. Let me just get to a different space here. Back up here. If I wanted it to be, I don't know, 20 feet. Just, all right. I just pulled a measurement, right? And that gave me a random number when I put those 2 points in there. I can come in here now and edit that value to be 20 feet, 0 inches, enter, and it adjusts that whole thing for me so it's actually 20 feet. And now I know that's 20 feet long. If I go to my properties and I change my line weight to make that really thin, it really dials in, you know, exactly where those points are. And now I can take my rectangle and I can come in and can actually use my snap to markup tool down here. And
Whoa, we have nothing.
I know, sorry. I know. I'm just trying to. All right, so then I'm here, I'm 20 feet. Yeah, you can all tell jokes about me later. So now I know that rectangle is 20 feet, right? I can also use another dimension to figure out. Maybe I want to make this thing 6 feet, you know, same thing. Double check, double click that, call that 0. That adjusts the size. Now I can click my rectangle and I can drag this thing down until it, boop. Now I'm 20 foot by 6 foot. I feel better about that because it's defined, the lines are parallel because it's a rectangle. And then if I wanted to change the size, I just drag it out, you know, and now it's bigger. Obviously, you know, you have to measure it again to find out what it is, but at least I have more control over it. So I don't use these too often unless I'm just trying to get area of a space. But they're all pretty much the same thing. This Polyline sketch to scale, that's pretty cool. Where am I? I'm 49. I'm almost at that one, but it has the same principles. I'm going to turn my snap off of here, but I can say, there's my line. If I do the properties of that line and I want to show the segment values, there's the distance. If I want to drawing this to scale, that's telling me the distance of those paths. Or I can get the total length of that. I think it's captions has to be on. Show caption. And that's 212 feet and 3 3/4 of an inch. This is a pretty handy one, you know.
What was that last?
This is Polyline.
The last you just.
Oh, show caption right here, Danny. Show caption. If you show caption, it will turn the overline. You can tell it what it wants to be. Right now, it's selected as length. So,
You click something to get the total control.
yep, that's the show caption. So, if I show caption, I can turn this other one off, segment values, if that's.
Segment value, show caption. Okay,
Yep.
yeah.
Show caption is just the length.
Yeah. Segments of it.
The segments of the total. Now,
That's good.
so, I mean, this tool is very similar to this measure tool. This is Polylength in measurements. So if I take that, it really does the same thing.
But if you do this on a drawing, you open up a drawing that has an 8-inch scale.
Yep.
Do you have to set it to 8 inch or does the line?
Sometimes, Danny, it's already set to scale and it knows,
Right. Okay.
but you have to double check it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what is that drawing?
Well, this is precision here, and you're right. This is set to 1/16 scale. So that's why this is calculating. Otherwise, it would have prompted me and it would have said, what is the scale you want to use? You know, so you could use the one that's the drawing, or you could double check it with your structural drawings. All right, it is 11:51. All right. Do you want me to keep going, or do you want to pause here for a little bit for some questions? Because we have covered a lot of stuff. I haven't got into these dimension things, these alignment tools, I should say. That's probably, it may be another 10 minutes with that. So I don't want to go into that. If you really kind of want to talk a little bit about some of the stuff I've just done, you guys tell me.
Let's say go forward.
Go forward. Okay. I'll try to cram this thing in and get you right out of here. I have a little sketch at the bottom to kind of review this, make it a little bit easier to understand. I have these several circles here. Okay. They're different shapes and they're different orientations. So this is alignment. All right. So if I select these tools, I have to be conscious of the first one I select, the shapes that I select. So if I want everything to align with this circle, I have to select this one first. And when you select it, you'll notice it's a different selection grab handles on there. If I shift and select the other ones, selecting, you see they're all green. Okay, so the first one I selected is this one that's in yellow. Now, when I selected all those shapes, you can see all of those tools just showed up on me. Now, if I select this one, it says left align. If I select left align, it's going to align with the left-hand side of the first item that I selected. Select this, boom, everything just slaps over there and aligns with that one side. Hit the back arrow, and it goes back to where it was. I'll do a different shape. I'll make that the first one. I'm going to shift, select, 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 select. Okay. The next one in here is center align. So center line is going to align me with the center of that first shape that I selected. Select it. Everything lines up. This is a real handy tool if you're trying to draw some like shapes. Maybe they're conduits on a rack or something that an elevation of something, you want things to be aligned well. These are great tools for alignment. I'll hit my back arrow again. I'll use this tool over here, or this shape over here. I'll hold my shift button and I'll select these other shapes. And the next one is right-hand align. So it's going to align everything to the right-hand side of that first shape that's selected. There they go. Those are pretty easy to figure out what's going on there. What happens though is sometimes you're trying to align similar shapes and different things happen. This graphic is a pretty good way to see what's really happening here, and that's why I try to use it. So I'll use this one first. I'll select, 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 select. These next groups, this is top align, so it's going to align with the top of this. Top align, all the tops align. If I now select the middle line, they all middle align. I select the bottom line, they all select along the bottom line. These other ones are where things get a little tricky over here. And I don't use them a whole hell of a lot, but these graphics will help you kind of see it. So the first one I selected is this little one right here. And this one here is align width. So the width of this is between here and here. That's the width of that shape. So when I click that, all of the circles stay where they are, but they align the widths. So the widths are the exact same size as that width. Back arrow again. Selecting, shift selecting, shift selecting. This next one is align the height. Select that one, they all collapse down to the height of that shape. This next one is align size. That's probably going to do some crazy stuff here, so let's just see. And they're all different sizes here, right? Different sizes, different shapes. So now they're exactly the same size as that first one I selected. I don't know why you need to do the center in document there, but you could put everything in the center of the document. You know, that would be what that would do. These ones here, distribute. I use these ones a lot too if I'm trying to fine tune things. Of course, I measure things and I try to get them perfect, but I'm placing them against my ruler. I might even be able to snap them using my snap markup tool, which I haven't really told you guys about. Sorry, I alluded to it though. So then I would use that distribute to kind of make them perfect. So I get them measured. I'm pretty close. Then I hit distribute, and then they're perfect. So this one here is distribute horizontally. When I click that, you would think that it would seem a little bit closer, but they really are. The distance between, but it's relevant to the first one that I selected, and it's the space between them. So let me do that again. So I select this one. And then I use this distribute horizontally. And the space between here and here is the same as the space between here and here as between here and here. It's just hard to see it because they're in different planes. But that's how it's working. And the last one. Oh boy. The last one is this distribute vertically. And it didn't really look like it did anything. I have a lot of trouble with that one, to be honest with you. But if I have these parallel lines here and I kind of move them so they're a little askew, and I select them all, select all these lines, and then I say distribute horizontally or vertically, it pops them right in line there. So, I mean, quick overview, we're at 11:59. So I just wanted to hit that last one. Hopefully that was helpful to you guys. All right, any other questions before I wrap it up? No? Good, you guys get something out of the class? Good, good. All right, you guys can go. Thanks very much.